I say what ho, this is Brian. Call me the threshing oar gardener, coming to you from Ice Station Zeppelin, where the high today is -10, and I swear, a submarine just broke through the backyard. That's the way it is up here in cold Ontario, and everywhere else. I know, everywhere else. You are listening to Ramble On Radio, episode number 47, the only dedicated podcast on this or any other known internets. Be sure to go to rambleonradio.com for all your Led Zeppelin news and any links I mentioned during the show. You can subscribe to Ramble On Radio through iTunes. And if you do this through iTunes, go over, leave a review. It helps to get me on the lists and whatnot. You can listen on Spreaker, and be sure to follow I Am Brian or Ramble On Radio or I Am Brian Dammit on Spreaker, and check it out at I Am Brian Dammit on iTunes. Follow Ramble On Radio on Facebook, Google Plus, and follow me on Twitter at Ramble On Blog. So last week the discussion was Led Zeppelin and TV and movies, and I got a few more. Have come up. I talked about the stairway scene in Almost Famous. Wyatt pointed out in the Facebook page, I had said I didn't know if it was in the... I was surprised it wasn't in the original movie, and I'm sure I'd seen it. I thought maybe it was released in one of the... But Wyatt points out, in the director's cut of the DV, it's there without Stairway to Heaven, and you're supposed to BYOS, bring your own stairway, and you're encouraged to watch a scene. It doesn't have the music, and you put on Stairway to Heaven yourself, and then you get the scene. That's how they get around paying the $17 million, whatever it is. And the $17 million figure comes from the movie The Boondock Saints. Another Wyatt point out. The director wanted to use When the Levee Breaks for William Dafoe's entrance, and it was a $17 million. So he said no. Except, boy, $17 million is a lot of money to use the songs. And I don't know this. I don't know the Boondock Saints, so I would have to. I'll have to slide into that. But if you go to the Facebook page, Wyatt posted actually a link to the scene in question and where it is on the scene that he would use it. Via Twitter, Daryl points out that the TV show Supernatural, the detective alias was Jay Page. And I know this one, and I forgot. This is one that was in the back of my mind, and I've forgotten it. And I've never seen the show, but I knew of this one. And there was an episode where they had Jimmy Page. There was a lot of Led Zeppelin reference in it, and a Jimmy Page. And I think it had something to do with the guitar player, and they mentioned Jimmy Page being the best. But I could be wrong on that, because like I said, I've never actually seen the show, but I do recall some discussion about that. And also there was one, and this one I meant to include last week. I knew about this. It had come up in one of the for badge holders only. 2 weeks ago, someone on Pawn Stars was selling a black and white Neil Preston picture of Robert, the one at Kazar Stadium, holding the dove, and I guess it was an actual print or something. He was looking at a lot of money. But I haven't seen that particular episode, but I'm sure I will eventually. Pawn Stars is one of those ones I catch once in a while. And finally, I remember this one. This almost immediately, I shut things down, and you kind of walk away, and almost immediately went, "Oh, I know one now." I had noticed this last summer. The 90s sitcom, the excellent 90s sitcom News Radio. It is such a funny show. And I did, in the 90s, I didn't watch it very much. Every once in a while, you catch it and go, it's pretty good. But my son started watching it recently, and it's so funny. But anyway, the sitcom News Radio, season 2, there's about 8 in a row were named after the Zeppelin albums. And it goes like this: episode 20, and this is season 2, episode 13. So it's episode 20 in total. And, but episode 13 for season 2, In Through the Outdoor. Episode 21, The Song Remains the Same. Episode 22, Zoso. Episode 23, Houses of the Holy. Episode 24, Physical Graffiti. Episode 25, Led Zeppelin. Episode 26, Presence. Episode 27, Coda. Episode 28, Led Zeppelin 2. And 28 is, of course, season 2, episode 21. And that's the last episode in the season. So that's Led Zeppelin 2. Furthermore, episode 41, which is season 3, episode 13, is called Led Zeppelin Boxed Set. So that's a few that I missed. Okay, so I sat down on Sunday First thing, I'm bright and early, about 8:30 in the morning, and I fired off a couple of emails. I wanted to try and see if I could get somebody from the new band. I don't know if I mentioned this week. I think it was after the fact, but Jason and Glenn Hughes have announced their new band. It's called California Bread, and B-R-E-D, by the way, not B-R-E-A-D. And it's with, as I've talked about here, Andrew Watt on guitar, and presumably some keyboards as well. And that's it. It's a trio. They got an album coming out in May. And so I thought maybe, just maybe, one of those guys would be willing to talk to us. So I fired off a nice, polite email, very professional. And I fired off a similar one to Peter Minch, Jimmy Page's manager. Jimmy's doing the on February 20th, I believe it is, next week on Thursday. He's doing a bunch of media for the re-release, the new re-releases. So that was Sunday. And I was hoping maybe I could get a chance to, or maybe they'd pass me on to a lesser person involved in the project, and we'd at least get somebody on to talk about it and spill a bean or two for us. And well, I must say, here's the response I have gotten. And I actually sat today and wrote all my notes out for this, and I was convinced I was going to come home and there'd be emails, and screw up my whole podcast now. But no, they saved me. They did not reply. They sent the crickets, both groups. Now, again, this may take a couple of days. This is Tuesday afternoon. It's been 2 business days since I sent it, really. But I point out that I sent the podcast, or the email I sent was pretty direct. Brian Gardner, Ramble on Radio, the only Led Zeppelin podcast. And then, and I would like to have this, XYZ, right? In terms of Black Country Communion, or in terms of California, that's going to take a while. In terms of California Bread, I pointed out, asked as well for review material, and which I used to get with Black Country Communion, but it was actually run through Joe Bonamassa record company. So what I don't know is, this is a different record company. This would be different promotion side of things. So who knows what it'll be like. They were great to work with. I don't know what anybody wants to say about Joe Bonamassa when it comes to this, but he was great. His people were great to work with. And I appreciated it. So anyway, I basically, and what I did was, after the body of the email, I put in a little PR blurb. I just want to read it to you so you get the idea. This was a professional sounding-ish email. By the way, if anybody's in PR there and wants to improve on this, I plan on using it in the future, but it probably needs some touching. So if anybody's in PR and wants to do that, and I've already got some ideas on how to fix it myself, but Ramble on Radio has been a Led Zeppelin blog since 2007, covering all the news before and in the aftermath of Led Zeppelin's 2007 reunion concert in London. Having taken a couple of years to get over the fact that a subsequent tour wasn't going to happen, Ramble on Radio changed to a blog devoted to the professional activities of members of Led Zeppelin and people in their immediate circle, as well as stories about Led Zeppelin-related activities from around the world. In early 2011, I posted regularly for the website LedZeppelinNews.com while Steve Sauer was on sabbatical. After that was done, I began a podcast debuting in August 2011. Ramble on Radio, the Led Zeppelin podcast, has done almost 50 episodes, as currently is recorded weekly. 2013, the podcast expanded into Spreaker and onto YouTube. Fairly basic, fairly simple. I mentioned in the when it says professional activities of Led Zeppelin, I put in brackets including Jason Bonham for the California Bread one. And then in the bottom of the California Bread one, I linked a bunch of articles for Black Country Communion reviews I'd done, because I've been positive. So I was hoping maybe this was, I guess what I'm getting at is, it wasn't just a fly-by-night email. It wasn't just, I'll try this, and they always say no. I sincerely, they're doing press. Both of them are, seem to be looking to do press. So I sincerely was offering press. And they sincerely replied with bupkis. And I agree, it needs some polish and stuff. But and now maybe they're going to be listening. Maybe they'll listen to this and go, jerks, backtack us. But maybe they're going to go back and listen to it. They got to do the review, and of course, if it winds up in Peter Mench's hands, he maybe has to schedule things. Maybe has to talk to Jimmy, see if he wants to do it. Same goes for the Black. I don't know who. It was the press person for California Bread. I don't know, but maybe he's got to try and get a hold of people. And so it's only been 2 days. So I'm not going to say you're not going to get one of these interviews or both of these interviews in the next while. However, what I thought I'd do today is run through some questions that I would have asked. And maybe we'll kind of try and pick apart the questions a bit ourselves. And I'd love to hear from you. In case it does happen in the next couple of days, Twitter and Facebook, whatever, Google Plus, although I really don't check that one, I confess. Let me know what you would ask. What you would ask the guys in California Bread, or what you would ask Derek Sherinian, or what you would ask, Jimmy Page about the reissues. Now remember, it's about the reissues. It's not about, where's the dragon suit? California Breed. So I've been calling it California Bread. It's California Breed. I just double checked that. It was in the back of my mind. I had it wrong. So there, it's California Breed. So no wonder they don't want to talk to me. I can't even get their name right. So let me know. Let me know what you think. But my questions, California Breed, that I've come up with so far would be, first off, whatever happened to Derek? We know that they had a fallout with Joe Bonamassa. We know that they tried to go with the name Black Country Communion, and Bonamassa blocked that even after he left. Presumably, the wanting to go with Black Country Communion would have involved Derek Sherinian as well. But he's not involved in this one. So what happened in the interim to Derek Sherinian would be a question. Is he a Bonamassa guy, for instance? Is he... or was he just busy elsewhere? Was he not expecting this to happen? Did he decide, no, it's time to move on? Or does he hate Glenn too? Although I'm thinking Glenn or Jason or Andrew's not going to tell you why he hates Glenn. But he's a definite missing from all this equation. We know that Joe Bonamassa has had a split with Glenn, and obviously Glenn and Jason have gone off. Joe's gone off to do his solo stuff. Derek Sherinian's kind of left hanging. Whatever happened to him? The other guy who considered himself a fifth member, often considered this his band, really, was Kevin Shirley, the producer. Now, Shirley is a Joe Bonamassa guy. He produces Joe Bonamassa albums. He brought Joe Bonamassa into this project. He considers it his project. He really did. But it'd still be interesting to ask. Did they talk to Kevin Shirley? Was there any discussion of him producing? Would he, or is there bad blood between Glenn and Kevin Shirley now too? And then on the same kind of lines, what does Andrew bring to the table that's different from Joe? What makes him better than Joe, or what's different? What's going to be different about the sound? And I don't know Andrew Watts playing very well. I've kind of checked him out a little bit on YouTube. And for the last while, I've followed him on Twitter and stuff like that. But I suspect the answer will be plays with a little more emotion, a little less technique. And the criticism of Bonamassa, lots of guys have this criticism, is he's a very technical player, but he's not... They say emotional player. I think he lacks energy sometimes. I think there are times when the guitar really needs to just rise above it. And a little too fond of the compression maybe, or his sound just lacks that power and energy that you want to bring to the table. But not always, for one thing. I get the complaints about Joe Bonamassa being a technical, cold player, but I think they're only they're half true, is what they are. I think there are times when he really does break out of that mold. But what does Andrew bring into the table that Joe doesn't? So one of the complaints about Joe was that he wouldn't commit to touring, that he that the band basically stagnated in large part because he was concentrating on a solo career. So the question is this new band going to be touring more? Can we expect more touring? And are they coming to Toronto or Southern Ontario? Ah, ha, ha, ha. And then along those lines, what are the expectations for this band? Because I think they may have got caught off guard by Black Country Community's success. I mean, in fairness to Joe, it probably always was meant to be a side project for everybody, meant to be a little bit of fun. And then when it became as successful as it did, Glenn and Jason were saying, "Boy, we could turn this into something. Let's tour. And Joe was saying, for Joe, this is still a side project. I have a very successful solo career. Where Glenn kind of flits around from project to project. Jason's the same. He have Led Zeppelin experience going on. That's about it. So, and the odd side project. But this could have easily become their main project. This could have become something quite nice for them, I think. I suspect it got beyond their expectation. And that may be why they're saying, come on, we want to tour. And Joe's going, no, this is still just a side project. I still have a nice little solo career here. So I suspect that was a hindrance, So I wonder if what their expectations are and if they're a little more managed than they were last time. And I guess the last thing would be, just what does Andrew do in terms of vocals and keys and all that sort of stuff. And we'll find that out when the album comes out, I guess. But that would have been the question. So then there's Jimmy. So Jimmy's doing on February 20th, he's doing a bunch of media for the reissues. Presumably we're getting the first 3 albums reissued. And I presume it's just Jimmy. It's not the group of them. I presume it's not John Davis, the engineer, the audio engineer. I presume it's just Jimmy. And like I said before, bear in mind that's the interview subject is going to be the reissues. It's not going to be Where's the Dragon Suit. So the first question I would have for him is explain the process. What exactly do you mean by reissues or remasters? What are you doing? Because I'm not clear on this point. I'm not clear if they're remixing them, if they're taking the original tapes that they laid down tracks on and, boosting more guitar here, less guitar there sort of thing, or are they just EQing it? Are they just taking already mixed down tracks and EQing it? And along the same line, John Davis said they're using taped source for the first time ever. And I'm not sure what that means. I presume that means like the multi-track tape. The thing that Jimmy Page put in a suitcase and carried from studio to studio while they were recording, I assume is what the taped source is. But I could be wrong on that. So that's, the process, the technical side of it. What exactly are we getting from a technical standpoint? And then, by the same token, the audio files are kind of wondering, what are we getting? Are we getting, so from an audio file, are we getting SACDs? Are we getting DVDAs? What are we getting in terms of CD and vinyl? Is it all in one box set? Is that going to include the extras? Is that just going to include the 9 albums? Is that going to be on vinyl? Is that going to be on CD? And alternately, a question would be the iTunes, the mastered for iTunes. What was the process there? And could they be used by, and I forget the name, Live something, no, got it. Is it Livestream? No, not Livestream. But anyway, they have them, they sell them, and they told me when I asked that they're the master for iTunes masters, the same masters, and it's been argued with me that that's not possible. So I'd be curious, who owns the iTunes side of things, and how does that process work? Outside of that, then we want to know, the bonus material. Did they find that first rehearsal at Gerrard Street isn't included? Did it ever exist in the first place? And for our man Dave Lewis, was the first rehearsal on Gerrard Street that Jimmy remember? And is there any live tracks in the bonuses? Is there any, that sort of thing? Did they consider doing that? And conversely, the Rolling Stones have been releasing live, like, bootlegs on a web. They have a website. They've been releasing these bootlegs, and I got the Brussels Affair, 1972 in Brussels, which is a famous Stones bootleg. But they're getting mastered by a pro. They're getting run through professional equipment, mastered by a pro. They sound great. And then they're releasing them through this website. And you can download MP3s, you can download FLACs, you can download LACs, you can buy CDs, you can spend $300. You can spend $10 on MP3s, you can spend $300 on a vinyl set with T-shirt and scarf or something, some stuff like that, right? Like a whole booklet type thing, a big bonus set. And maybe it's not $300. It's something that's more than I would be willing to pay. But I bought, like I say, the MP3s of the first one they did, and it was excellent. It's excellent. It really is. Would they consider doing anything like that? Has Zeppelin ever looked at, and would they consider doing that with some of their live vaults? And the other thing, what about Record Store Day? Do you have any ideas? Are we going to do the? I think for records, my favorite Record Store Day idea is Wearing and Tearing. They were going to release Wearing and Tearing as a single, specifically for the Nebworth Festival. I'd love to see them release that for Record Store Day, as it kind of tie it in with the In Through the Outdoor release. Well, and then we'll be getting the remasters in albums only, plus albums and bonus. Will the bonuses be separate? Obviously, there'll be like two CD sets with the album and the bonus material. But will there be just the bonus material as a CD? Will there be just the bonus material as a vinyl? Just the album as a vinyl without the bonus material? And then, of course, we won't ask where's the dragon soup, or where's the poppy soup. That's an important question. Have you had any recent sessions with Robert and a pack of Mongolian goat herders that you would like to tell John Paul Jones about while we're here? Are there really two songs of John Paul Jones singing, which Robert talked about? Did they exist for real? And which that? And finally, I asked him about the Hurricane Sandy relief concert, the complaint that Led Zeppelin were going to play at it, and Jimmy's lawyer, Satan LLB Esquire, put the stop to that. And if so, why? What did the lawyers not like? Because as I've said before, the lawyers don't kind of say, Jimmy, you're mad at Robert, so you don't want to do this. They don't say, you haven't played much this month, so maybe you think not, maybe your performance won't be up to snuff. The lawyers look at the contract and say, you know what, my guess, an absolute guess, is the contract stipulated that Harvey Weinstein owned the performances, not Led Zeppelin. That's my guess. And the boys and probably the lawyer said, no, you want to veto over any releases on this, and they couldn't get it. But because that changes the story a bit, it's not so much that evil. It's, well, you could have had them if you'd have conceded 1 point on the contract. Those. So I'd be curious what the lawyers found that they didn't like. And that's so. Listen, Jimmy, if you're listening, if you're checking out the pod, those are simple questions. Nothing awful in there, and I'll drop the goat herder one. I will. Poppy suit's in though. That's yeah, that's it. That's it. I won't do the Jimmy Page because he doesn't want to answer the poppy suit question. I can't see that happen. And the same goes for Glenn Hughes. If you're checking this out, right? Simply, I want to help promote the band a little. Give me a chance over here, and we'll play some of the music, and we'll have a nice time. And we'll get this. We're episode 47. We're going to be up to 50 soon. And speaking of that, by the way, I mentioned last week that I'm going to start dropping some episodes from the front end once we hit 50 over at Podbean. The same is going to happen. Probably not this one, probably next one at Spreaker. Spreaker looks like, it's free. It's a free thing and stuff. but it looks like maybe 10 or 12 episodes is all I can handle at a time. So they'll be up until they're not up. That's what it boils down to. I actually think it's 10 hours of disk space I have there. So however long. But once I get this one, I have about an hour left. So probably before I put the next, before 48 goes up, whatever the first one is, and it's somewhere around 40, I'm thinking, or 30, 37 or something, it will get taken down. So again, if you want to listen to these on Spreaker, you want to go backwards and listen, do it now. The same goes for if you want to go check out the first 10 episodes, you want to go backwards, download them or get them now, because they are disappearing off the internet. I will have backups, but you probably won't. And that's it. That is Ramble On Radio episode number 47. Check rambleonradio.com for notes on this week's podcast, Led Zeppelin news and reviews, and any links I might mention in today's podcast, which were none. Follow Ramble On Radio on Facebook, Google Plus, and Ramble On and at Ramble On Blog on Twitter. You can subscribe to Ramble On Radio through iTunes. Don't forget to leave a review. Listen on Spreaker. Be sure to follow me, and check it out on I Am Brian Dammit on iTunes or on eBay. On you ever just want to bang your head on the table? I have iTunes written down, and it's wrong. And that's the problem here, right? So check it out on iTunes, and check it out at I Am Brian Dammit on YouTube. And I'm just going to correct that now on the wrong thing, but yeah. Thanks for listening to Ramble On Radio, and I will see you next week. Hopefully, we'll have an interview next week. I won't have to figure something out to speak about because somebody else did the speaking. I'll see you next week. Take care and have a good week.
Switch off the internet.